Tom Bower is a man who writes books that many people all over the world like to read. He is very famous because he is like a detective who uses words instead of a magnifying glass. He spends a lot of his time looking for big secrets that are hidden away. Recently, he found something that is very hard to believe. He discovered a new truth about a young girl named Lilibet. This new information is so big that it changes the whole story we were told a few years ago. What he found is different from everything the world was told back in the summer of 2021. It makes people stop and think about what really happened. This time, the big questions are not about small things. People are not just talking about family fights or who wore the fanciest or most expensive dress to a party. Instead, the questions are about something much more serious that involves the law and the government. They are asking about official government records. These are the special papers that the government keeps in safe places to prove who people are. These papers show where a person was born and who their family is. Every single time a baby is born in the United States, the government gives that baby something called a digital fingerprint. This is not a real fingerprint made with blue or black ink on a tiny thumb. It is actually a very long string of numbers. These numbers go on a baby's birth certificate. These numbers are very important, and they are not just chosen by accident or by a random guess. Every part of that long number tells a specific story about that baby's life and where they started. For example, the first three numbers in the string are what people call an area code. These three numbers tell the government exactly which state the baby was in when they first opened their eyes and entered the world. If a person is born in the sunny state of California, where the beaches are big and the weather is warm, their special state code is always the number 104. This is a rule that has been true for a very long time. It helps the government keep track of where everyone was born so that the records are correct. But something very strange happened with the birth certificate for Lilibet Diana. When her papers were shown on the news, some very smart people looked closely at those important numbers. These people noticed something that looked like a big mistake. It looked like a glitch in a computer or a tiny error that shouldn't be there. Her code was not 104, which is the code for California. Instead, her code was 105. This might seem like a very small difference because the numbers are so close together, but in the world of official government papers, it is actually a very big deal. If you look at the official rule book that the United States government uses for birth records, the number 105 does not belong to California at all. That number actually belongs to the state of Colorado. This is where the story gets really interesting and a little bit mysterious. People were told that Lilibet was born at a place called the Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. This hospital is right by the ocean in California. But if her birth certificate has a 105 code on it, it means the paper trail is leading people 1,000 miles away. It leads all the way to the Rocky Mountains in the state of Colorado. It makes people wonder if someone just made a silly mistake while typing. Or it makes them wonder if this number is the first real proof that the story we were told is not the whole truth. Numbers do not have feelings or opinions. They do not pick sides in an argument. They just tell the facts. And right now, these numbers are pointing directly toward Colorado. In most cases, when someone tells you a story, you can go and check the facts to see if they are telling the truth. If a baby is born in a certain city or a certain county, there is supposed to be a public record of that event. It is a law that the birth must be written down so everyone knows the baby exists and has a legal name. However, people who are looking into this story say they have run into a major problem. They say they hit a metaphorical brick wall. This means they could not find any information at all, no matter how hard they looked. One person who was investigating this story spent 25 minutes on a phone call with the office that keeps birth records in California. He was just looking for a tiny bit of proof that this birth actually happened in the place Harry and Meghan said it did. But the office gave him a very strange answer. They gave him a paper called a Certificate of No Public Record. In short, people call this a CNP. You should think about how strange that is for a moment. We live in a world where every move the royal family makes is watched by cameras and reporters. Yet, The state of California is basically saying they have no idea who this child is. If there is no official record of her birth under that name, it leads to a very scary question. If the newspapers were showing us a birth certificate, whose paper was it really? Was it a real government document? Or was it just a placeholder, used to keep people from asking too many difficult questions, until the real thing showed up? In every big mystery, there is almost always a person who saw what happened and knows a lot of secrets. In this story, that person might be a woman named Dr. Melissa Drake. She was a very famous doctor in Santa Barbara. Everyone said she was the one who helped bring Lilibet into the world. Her patients really liked her, and she was known as a Wonder Woman because she was so good at her job as a doctor for moms and babies. She was very well known in her community. But then something very weird took place. Just as people started asking loud questions about the birth certificate and the 105 code, Dr. Drake made a shocking announcement. She suddenly said she was closing her doctor's office and stopping her work. She only gave her patients 10 days of notice before she left. In the world of doctors, giving only 10 days of notice is almost never done. It usually takes many months to close a practice like hers. Mothers who were expecting babies very soon were left in a panic. They were wondering why their favorite doctor was disappearing so quickly. Dr. Drake told everyone that she needed to quit so she could focus on her own health. But some people think there is a lot more to the story than that. Her husband runs a very expensive fertility clinic, which is a place that helps people have babies. They are having some trouble there. Some people say the timing of her leaving her job is not just a coincidence. They wonder if she saw something she wasn't supposed to see. Or maybe the stress of being part of such a big story was just too much for her to handle. When the main doctor leaves so suddenly, it makes people want to find out what is really going on. To understand why all these numbers and names are such a big deal, we have to look at the special rule book used by kings and queens. In the United Kingdom, there is a very strict law for anyone who wants to be in the line of succession. This is a list of people who are allowed to become the next king or queen. This law is called the born of the body rule. It might sound like something from an old movie or a fairy tale, but it is a very serious legal requirement. This rule means that for a child to be a prince or a princess and have a spot in line for the throne, they must be born directly from their mother's body. They have to be naturally carried and physically delivered by the mother who will be their parent. This is why the royal palace usually follows a tradition where they put a big gold stand, called an easel, outside the palace gates. On that stand, they place a paper signed by doctors to prove to the whole world that the born of the body rule was followed correctly. But for Harry and Meghan's children, Archie and Lilibet, that official proof was missing. If it turns out that the rules were not followed, it could change everything for the royal family. This is why people are looking so closely at the numbers and the documents to find the real truth.